Today we're talking about a somewhat arcane subject, intellectual property. The UNSW Faculty of Law is set to launch a new Graduate Diploma in Applied Intellectual Property, and that's aimed at both lawyers and non-lawyers. Here to discuss the new course with us is visiting fellow Adam Liberman. Adam, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Steve.
Adam, you come to us with over 30 years' experience in dealing with IP. That's both in the commercial and public good setting, namely at Freehills, the law firm, and also at the CSIRO. So tell us, why is a new course like this one so important?
Well, I guess the course is important for the very words that you used at the beginning, and when you talk about IP being arcane. I guess I'm trying to seek to make it not arcane, make it something that's really relevant to those in industry and science, and to really explain it in an applied environment. My theory or my approach has been that since I started to practice the law, I've always felt that those that were seeking to engage in the IP field really didn't understand it particularly well. And I guess this is really one way of trying to ensure that there is a better understanding of intellectual property in an applied environment.
So what is intellectual property, and can you explain that to us?
Sure. Intellectual property in a legal sense is patents, copyright, trademarks, and designs. They're the acts that govern it. In a more commercial setting, one would view it as those rights that are given to people, such as inventors, to give them a competitive advantage. And that's really what it's about.
So in a university setting, that's obviously very important, but it's beyond that as well, beyond universities, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's relevant in all spheres of life. University is one context where it's particularly important, but as you mentioned in the CSIRO context, in a business context, so for instance, when a corporation acquires another corporation, there are IP issues, there are IP assets that are being acquired, and one needs to understand how one goes about acquiring them and the commercial implications of that.
This new course is an applied IP course, so we're moving beyond this nebulous idea of IP into something else, aren't we?
Well, we are. I mean, I guess the way that I've understood IP to be taught, and indeed I was taught here at University of New South Wales, the focus of teaching is basically a dispute resolution context, so what the court cases say. Whereas what we're going to be seeking to do is to say, well, that's what the court cases say, and in order to avoid getting into court, you can apply it in these ways. So, for instance, in terms of the three courses that I'm dealing with, there's IP licensing and commercialisation is one, IP strategy and management is another, and commercial transactions and IP is another. So what we're really seeking to do here is to get the value side of IP out there, and so that people can understand the value side rather than just the dispute side.
Who is this course aimed at? Who would benefit from taking this course?
Well, lawyers would, because I think it gives them an insight which is based largely on my experience. But apart from lawyers, the people that would really benefit from it would be scientists, tech transfer people, BD people, business development people, who as part of their commercial negotiations or as part of their commercial dealings have to deal with IP. And unfortunately, there's a mystique about IP that again, I hope to erase as part of this course, or these courses.
Okay, so anyone who takes this course can gain those extra management qualifications that allows them to actually make some money out of IP. Is that right? Well,
I'm not particularly focusing necessarily about making money out of IP. I think that there are issues in the public good space as well. And I guess when one talks about management, I'm not so much talking about management, I'm talking about understanding the application of a legal right, which a lot of people just don't do. And they confuse intellectual property with intellectual capital, with intellectual assets. And I'm really trying to bring things back to the basics, and those basics that are applied in a relevant context.
Give me an example. Business management here at the University of New South Wales would take this course in order to do what?
A business management person would take this course in order to be, if he was going to be a business development person, for instance, and negotiate deals in the IP space. So he'd need to understand what the commercialisation options were, spin out companies, licensing options, joint ventures, collaborations, those sorts of options, and the intricacies of those options would be something that they learned in this context. And scientists as well, by the way, and particularly scientists. I mean, I guess my experience at CSIRO and in other areas where scientists and engineers have been involved, there is a genuine misunderstanding. And what I'm trying to do is to create an understanding in an important space for them.
Can you give us some examples where some of those misunderstandings have actually led to real problems?
Yes, I guess a simple and straightforward one is scientists agreeing as between scientists that they'd grant exclusive rights to something, and let's say it's a patent, not knowing that already exclusive rights have been granted to somebody else. And there are management issues involved in that, so that would be dealt with in the context of IP strategy and management. Simple and straightforward things when you think about it, but scientists perhaps don't think about it in that context. So,
and it's important to think about that.
It's important because
the repercussions?
The repercussions are horrendous. If you've granted two people exclusive rights, you can imagine what happens when they meet in the marketplace. So, nothing good.
And lawyers get involved. And
lawyers get involved. And unfortunately, I think that's another element of this, trying to educate people, perhaps to a certain extent to self-educate themselves to understand what the issues are. And lawyers are obviously important because these are legal rights. But there's a level of knowledge which I think that scientists and engineers and others who deal with IP need to have, and this is what this course is about.
Okay, so the course is due to start in 2010.
Yep.
Who will be teaching the course?
There'll be myself, I'm Kathy Bowery, there'll be a number of other people from the law faculty, Michael Handler, there'll be legal practitioners, I'll also be getting other people in as well. So it's a course that will seek to use the skills of a multidisciplinary education force, I guess.
So people will be learning from experienced practitioners.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And you've written one of the main texts, I understand, for IP.
Yes, well, it's going to be used in this context, and I guess how this all came about really was that members of the faculty heard about my writing this and heard about, I guess, my desire to actually teach in an applied setting. And this book is International Licensing and Technology Transfer, Practice and the Law, and it deals not only with Australian issues but in international issues as well.
And I understand that you're looking to develop executive programs a little bit later on?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the executive program is certainly going to be aimed at board members, at research scientists perhaps who can't take the time to do a course of this length. And the important element about those executive programs is not only that they're going to be aimed for the Australian marketplace, but for the Asia-Pacific marketplace. I've just returned from Asia, and I guess the sense that I get from that environment is that there's going to be an explosion in terms of the use of intellectual property. China at the moment is filing patents at a rate that's just incredible, as is Korea, and India is going to be coming up shortly as well. But all those countries don't understand, or at least my experience has been, they really don't understand how to use that intellectual property, and these executive courses will be aimed at that.
You mentioned China and India, but Australia doesn't have a very good record here either, do we?
Well, I guess that's my sense of things. I frequently mention the statistic that in terms of the global innovation space, Australia has 0.3% of the world's patents. 0.3% is minimal when it has about 3% of the scientific publications out there. Australia is frequently viewed as a 2% economy, so the gap between the 0.3% and the 2% is a large one if we're going to be a big player in the innovation space worldwide.
And this course will certainly help us do that.
Well, I hope so. I hope it'll make people realise the importance of IP in that space.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.